Welcome to episode 181 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing actor and director Alexander Nevsky. He's a Russian bodybuilder turned action star. And today we're talking about his new action movie, Black Rose. So stay tuned for that interview. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 181. Just want to mention a free webinar that I'm doing on Wednesday, August 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's called How to Effectively Market Your Screenplay and Sell It. I'm going to go through all the various online channels that are available to screenwriters and give you my unfiltered opinion of them. I get questions all the time about the blacklist, about Inktip, about various contests. So in this free webinar, I'm going to talk about my experiences with them. Again, this webinar is completely free. Don't worry if you can't make it to the live event. I'll be recording this webinar. So if you sign up, you'll get a link to the recorded event after it happens. To sign up, just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/free webinar. And the word free webinar is all lowercase and all one word. So it's just sellingyourscreenplay.com/free webinar. I'll of course link to it in the show notes. Also, if you're already on my email list, you don't need to register. Anyone on my email list will get an email giving you all the details so you can go and take the webinar along with everyone else. So once again, if this sounds like something you'd like to learn about, just go to www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/free webinar. So now let's get into the main segment. Today, I'm interviewing actor and director Alexander Nevsky. Here is the interview. Welcome, Alexander, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. So to start out, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment business?
I was born in Moscow, and it was still Soviet Union when I was born over there. But, thanks to Perestroika, thanks to Michael Gorbachev, he changed the country. And during the 90s, I became like a most popular Russian bodybuilder. I was very skinny as a kid, but, I watched Arnold movies, I watched Stallone's movies, I watched Van Damme, all that movies. Nerds loved, in every country. And it changed my life. I started boxing, I started bodybuilding. And I became very popular in Russia in the 90s. I had my own TV show on Channel 1 Russia. About 50 million people watch it. I published like 6 books about bodybuilding and martial arts and fitness and everything. I graduated from Moscow State University of Management. Basically, everything was perfect, except during the 90s, because of all the Soviet system crashed, basically they stopped making movies. So they didn't shoot movies over the 90s in USSR. So I wanted to do that, and I moved to California first time in 1999. I studied English at the UCLA Extension. I'm sorry, I still have some problems with grammar, but, And I studied acting at Lee Strasberg Theater Institute. Also, I studied producing and, American, international way of producing. And I started to produce my own movies in 2003, because by 2003, situation in Russia changed, and they started to create film industry again. And for example, when I moved out of Russia in 1999, total box office in all Russia was about $2 million. Can you imagine? $2 million.
Wow.
Last year, it was $2 billion last year,
Yeah.
But in 2003, it started to getting better slowly. And I produced my first film, Moscow Heat. It was in English with Hollywood cast and crew. And actually, I also wrote a script for it with my American friend, with Robert Madrid. And we shot it in Moscow. In English again, but in Moscow it became theatrical hit. After that, we sold it to about 90 territories, pretty much everywhere. It was released straight to DVD in the States also. And that's how I started. And since that, I produced 8 films, and Black Rose is interesting because it's also my directorial debut. So I had all the fun I could have. But that's basically a very short version of my bio. You know?
Yeah. No, that's a fascinating story. I wonder if we can just touch on Moscow Heat a little bit. That's your first effort as a producer, and maybe you can talk about how you transitioned. I mean, ultimately, a lot of producing is raising of the money, and I'd be curious. I get a lot of screenwriters coming to me saying, "Hey, how can I raise money? How can I produce my own script?" Maybe you can talk about that. How did you go about raising the money for Moscow Heat?
I will talk about that. It's just what I want to say to all your readers, all your listeners, to all your audience. You know, here in LA, because right now I'm in LA, and I live here. I'm going back and forth, but my production company based here. And are you in LA yourself, actually?
Yes, I am. I'm in San Fernando Valley.
Where are you? You're in LA?
Yes, San Fernando Valley, right outside.
You're in San Fernando Valley. So I'm sure you'll understand. I'm in Beverly Hills right now. So I'm sure you'll understand what I'm talking about, because there's so many talented people in Los Angeles. So many. Writers, actors, directors, models, whatever. So many talented people. The only one same problem they have, they're waiting. They're waiting for someone to give them money. They're waiting for someone to give them chance, for agent to call, you know, just whatever. Just they're waiting. They shouldn't wait. And in my life, I never waited. When I moved here first time, of course, I didn't know what to do. Everyone knew me in Russia, you know, everyone. And when I moved here, it was like a moon. It was like a moon. But, you know, again, I was kind of famous sportsman. I won Mickey Juniors 3 times. So I was introduced very fast to all my heroes, all the action heroes, to Jean-Claude Van Damme, to Arnold Schwarzenegger, to Steven Seagal. And the funny thing is, when I was offered my first role in 2001, it was the order with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Charlton Heston. Sheldon Lettich directed the movie. I think it was one of the last ones for Charlton Heston, unfortunately. So when they offered me the film, Bad Russian, to play the guy basically like he's a gangster or I don't know, and Van Damme has a fight with him and just kick his ass and everything. And Sheldon Lettich, who directed Double Impact and wrote Rambo, whatever, he offered me the part. And basically for everyone, it could be like dream come true, because Van Damme was one of my heroes. But if I play that, I could have betrayed my audience in Russia, you know? So I explained that to Sheldon, I explained that to ICM and everyone else, and since that, I never played Bad Russian. So I kept my Russian audience. And to answer your question, yeah, by the way, Sheldon Lettich many years ago on Black Rose, Sheldon is my executive producer. And actually, he was the one who made sure that my directorial debut going into the right direction. That was many years ago. Talking about first steps and talking about the money. So I was established TV personality in Russia, star, but without movies. When I started to do my first film, I figured out that I have to go back to the land and to the people who already know me, who will watch my film. So I will have kind of like a good business plan, because you know, in movie business, to have a business plan, it's very hard. So for all your audience, for all the people who are looking for the money, it's not about the money first. It's about get out of your couch and found something which will be exclusive, you know? Because in my case, I'm an established movie star in Russia, and my name is enough right now to open film theatrically in Russia. Yes, internationally, I'm just doing my steps, step by step forward, whatever. But in Russia, I still can get all my money back. But I'm not making my movies in Russian. I'm making them in English with Hollywood cast and crew. We just dub them completely into Russian for the theatrical release over there. And pretty much everywhere else, we release them in English, like it was with Black Rose, like it's with my new films, which I will tell you about. So I didn't sell my script to anyone if we talk about Moscow Heat. First, I just created the strategy, I created the story, and when we wrote the script, I started to show to the people. When Michael York, great actor, he loved it. You know, when he loved it, it was me and Michael York already who were pushing it. You know, and of course in Russia, I found people very fast to do that film, and they were ready to finance the film. There was another catch, because if we talk about Moscow Heat again, it was my first film. It was 2003, and everyone told me like, no, you should do movie in Russian for your audience. And I disagreed, and we did it in English, and that's how I started. So to answer you the question, of course, everyone has his own way, to get into the movie business. It's just you have to have something exclusive, and you have to understand that basically you have to find it. You cannot wait for someone to give it to you. That's if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you mean, and I'm a big proponent of that as well, of just getting out there and doing things. Good things can happen if you're out there doing stuff. Nothing can happen if you're just waiting for someone else. So let's dig into Black Rose.
I agree.
Yeah, let's dig into Black Rose. Mm-hmm. To start out, maybe you can give us a quick pitch or log line for that film. What's it all about?
Black Rose, that's a story about a Russian cop from Moscow who had to join LAPD for 1 month to help them to find a new Jack the Ripper serial killer, because there's a killing going on. Someone killed Russian women in West Hollywood. There's a lot of Russian people over there. Mm-hmm. LAPD cannot find him. There's there's no one understands who it is, and he just the killer. He just leaves the notes in Russian on everybody and the Black Rose. So, and my character, I'm playing Vlad Kazatov. He lives in Moscow, he works in Moscow, but he travels to LA. And it's interesting movie, in my opinion. Of course, I'm subjective, but in my opinion, interesting because you have so many things at once. There's Dirty Harry, because my character, he has big gun and he has his own rules, and it's also Crocodile Dundee, because my character, he's first time in LA. He's just full of stereotypes. He doesn't understand how it works. He just looked at he watched Hollywood films, but he never been here. So it's fish out of water story. Mm-hmm. Also, he has big muscles and he larger than life. So I hope it reminds the audience of classic Schwarzenegger film. But it's also about relationship, because if we talk about the story, thanks to his partner, Kristana Loken plays a partner, my character. They kind of start to work together, and killer started to hunt them, and they started to hunt the killer. So there's a thriller, there's an action film, there's some comedy moments, and there's some horror. Because me personally, I'm a huge fan of horror films, huge fan. So we had to make a killer so gruesome, so nasty, whatever. So there's and if you check internet, there's so many American horror websites now, right, about the movie. So basically they treat it as a horror movie. Yeah, so I hope there's something for everyone in that film.
Yeah, it sounds like there is. So how did you get involved with this project? Maybe you can kind of describe sort of the genesis of it. As a producer and director, was this an idea that you had and you hired a screenwriter? Was it a spec script that you stumbled into? Kind of where did you find this script or hire this writer?
That's interesting because it's connected to the previous topics we spoke about already. Mm-hmm. First, I thought about Black Rose as a sequel to Must Eat.
Okay.
Because Must Eat was released in Russia in 2004. Warner Brothers Russia released it over there, and Must Eat grossed almost $1.5 million out of just 100 screens, which was huge for Russia at the time. And Lightning Imprint sold it at first can in 2005. Lightning sold it to 30 or 40 countries right away. And it has a deal with Universal. It was straight to DVD, but they sold 250,000 units, which was very, very big film at the time. Remember, they had Hollywood Video on every corner, Blockbuster Video on every corner. I'm sure you remember that time.
Yeah,
I remember it also very well.
Yeah.
It was different. Yes, it was different time. So, idea in Black Rose was, about it, kind of like a sequel to Moscow Heat, because in Moscow Heat I was playing Russian policeman, and my character was helping Americans in Moscow. Mm-hmm. But here I thought my character will go to LA, Faker will go to LA and deal with the bad guys over there. But after Moscow Heat, first I did street racing movie, Treasure Raiders. After that I did a thriller, Magic Man. After that, I did a part in a movie somewhere. After that, I did something else. So it was always my plate was full. I didn't have time to go back to Black Rose. And first script for Black Rose, I remember that idea. And first idea script I got like in 2006. Brent Huff, a great guy who directed Treasure Raiders for me, and he directed some independent movies for HBO and for Showtime. So Brent Huff wrote the first script, I think, in 2008 or 2008. Joe Sanders, another friend of mine who worked actually with Sheldon Lettich on Hardcore with Van Damme, he wrote Hardcore. He basically wrote, polished, or rewrote the Brent script like in 2009. Sheldon Lettich himself polished it like in 2010, 2011. So I was doing other movies, but I remember about those. And at the end of the day, you know, when we had a script which everyone loved, it was like 2011, beginning of 2012, and I just thought I should try directing myself because I was living with that story for so long. You know, I basically, I knew the story, I knew the characters, I knew what they should do, and I wanted to try. So it's just, that's why I took director's job, and that was a different story because it was, can you imagine? So you're producing the film, you're directing the film, you're doing all the promotions for the film, you're basically acting in the main part of the film, and you're doing everything. It just it was fun. I just didn't have time to work out. That was fun.
Yeah. So, you know, everyone always says that the entertainment industry is all about relationships. And I just wonder if we can just bring you back to, like, I think George Sanders is a good example of a writer. He's got, you know, dozens of writing credits on these types of action movies. And maybe you can take us back and just talk about how you initially met him. I just find it always interesting to kind of hear some of these stories. And maybe there's some lessons that people can learn from them.
First of all, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you have to be well connected. But who will make you well connected? You have to make yourself well connected. So let's talk about George Sanders, who is a good friend of mine. I was introduced to him by Nixon, who was like vice president of Lightning Entertainment at the time. And as soon as I have my first success with Moscow Hit, right? I started to think how to expand. So I opened a production company, Hollywood Storm. I opened it 10 years ago in 2007, and I started to have some projects in the development. And to have projects in the development means you have to talk to writers, you have to find people you're comfortable with, you know, and you have to hire or you have to write with them because every movie starts with a script, every movie. And it's, you know, so many people, I'm sure you know, so many great people said that most important thing about the movie is the script. And also, of course, I understand that it's much easier to change things in the script compared when you deep into the production or even post-production. It's much more expensive, you know, and much harder to change things later. So I was introduced to George by Joe Dixon, and George is a great guy, and we already had first version of it, which Brent wrote. So I just, we just lunch and I explained it to him what I like, what I don't like. And he just, with all respect to Brent, he rewrote it, you know. And later, actually, George worked with Sheldon Lettich because they know each other well because they work on several movies together, and polished it later. And, you know, for me, Sheldon is kind of like an icon in action genre because I watched all his films and I love his films. So I was introduced to George by Joe Dixon. I was introduced to Joe Dixon, you know, before that through some other guys, but I had a good film to be introduced every like distribution around. I had a film already. So you just have to have something, and as you said before, you just should go out and do it yourself. And of course, you should be as well connected as possible.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's talk about directing this. I get a lot of emails from people always asking, hey, I've written a script and I also want to direct it. How should I approach producers? I'm curious, obviously you have a lot of experience producing and acting and even writing, but how did you make that transition? And did you get any pushback from your investors since you didn't have, a big resume of directing credits? How do you broach that subject with your investors, and how do you get yourself in a position to direct a feature film?
First of all, if we talk about investors, when you sell your film and when you have an ability to deliver your money back, the money back to the investors, it's much easier. When you have a star power, it's also much easier. And in Russia, I'm a movie star. My movies make money, and it's very easy for me to work with same investors again, as well as with American distribution companies, because they sold my movies on a regular basis. And what's going on right now with independent film business? It's all in the independent film business. It doesn't matter if you make movies for $2 million or $5 or $15 million. For smaller movies now, it's very, very tough, for everyone. But again, for me, my exclusivity is a possibility to open film theatrically in Russia and all the ex-SSR and even some Eastern Europe. And when you can open film theatrically, it's the same as here. When you have a straight-to-DVD release, it can be good, but it's completely different money. In theatrical film, even if you cannot get too much from the box office, it's completely different deals. For TV, for Netflix, for everything else, for VOD, it's completely different compared to the small, independent film. Mm-hmm. It wasn't hard for me to explain why I want to direct the film, but it wasn't about my investors. It was really about me getting ready. And I'm a very realistic person, actually, and I knew that it's my first film. If I don't want to screw it up, excuse my French, I have to have like a good consultant on it, and that's how Sheldon Letich became executive producer, because he was by my side when we were shooting action scenes. Because who's better than him can explain what to do over there. Mm-hmm. Also, I had Brian Gorse, who directed 7 movies for Sony, and he did them, I think, in different locations around the world. He did it in Spain, in Italy, somewhere else. Most of them were like straight-to-DVD sequels to bigger Sony's movies, but still, he was a very experienced director and a producer. So I had guys on my side, and it was kind of like a little university. Like, I don't know how to say it in English, when you're getting something fast, and this is, for me, I had like 1,000 questions when we were doing pre-production. And during the production, again, if I didn't understand something, or if I wasn't sure that, I'm going into the right direction with my directing, right? Of course, I always asked Sheldon, I always asked Brian, and they helped. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that, of course, it was supposed to be my directorial debut. So before we start, and when we knew we will shoot it, of course, I went and talked to all the Russian directors who I respect and love, and got basically master classes from them, mm-hmm. right? And I would like to be as prepared as possible mm-hmm. for the film. So it wasn't hard for me to basically explain my investors why I want to direct the film. It was really hard to direct it mm-hmm. and act in it. Yeah, yes, yeah. Absolutely. But because of a good team, you have a popular podcast. So if I can thank Sheldon, if I can thank Brian Gore, if I can thank my DP, director of photography, Rudy Harbon, he did a great job. He's French, but he's working in Hollywood. He did great film with Kurt Russell and Kevin Costner, 3,000 Miles to Graceland, if you remember that film.
Yep, sure.
Rudy shot it. Yeah, and he did a wonderful job, because in that film, Las Vegas was one of the heroes of the film. And that's what he did with Moscow here. And that's, with Black Rose, because you will feel Moscow and you will feel LA. He shot it great. And also he helped me also. He told me, very experienced DP, and he told me, he gave me some advices. Yeah, so big thanks again to them, and big thanks to my crew, to great Kristana Loken, to great Adrian Paul, great Robert Davi, Matthias Hughes, and all these guys, Robert Madrid. They all helped me. They understood what I'm going through, and they helped. But just don't get me wrong. It was very tough, but it was huge fun. Huge fun.
Yep. So how can people see Black Rose? Do you know what the release schedule is going to be like for it?
Yes, Black Rose will be released in selected theaters on April 28th in LA, and it will be everywhere. Like it's like the release day and date. So on 28th it's in theaters, and on May 2nd it should be everywhere on VOD, on iTunes, on DVD, and we already made a deal with Netflix. It should be on Netflix starting end of June.
Okay.
Yeah, and also it should be in Redbox in May.
Okay.
So basically it should be pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So what's the best way for people to keep up with what you're doing? If you're on Twitter, Facebook, a blog, anything you're comfortable sharing, just so people can kind of follow along with your career.
So, of course I'm comfortable. So I'm on Twitter.
Okay.
It's at Nevsky, Nevsky Alexander. Nevsky Alexander. And also I'm on Instagram as at Real Alex Nevsky. So they can follow. And actually the film, which I'm finishing now, my new film actually, that's another challenge because I didn't direct that, but I produced it. And the guy who directed it, Andrei Bartkoviak, the guy who directed Doom, and Romeo Must Die, and Cradle to the Grave. So a film called Maximum Impact. It's an action comedy. It was written by Ruslan Manna, who wrote Rush Hour franchise. And I created a story with Ross for my new one. And that one, Maximum Impact, I think for the guys who will watch Black Rose, Maximum Impact will be a little different because, again, Black Rose kind of darker, like action and horror and thriller. And Maximum Impact, it's complete fun. It's this action comedy with me and Tom Arnold and Kelly Hu and some other great, Danny Trejo's in the movie. It's just, so just look forward. I look forward to show it all to your audience and to American audience, and I hope people will like it,
Yeah, sure. And when is Maximum Impact coming out?
I think next year.
Okay. So
next year, Maximum Impact will, because right now we're on final stage of post-production.
Okay. Perfect.
That's what we do now.
Well, Alexander, I really appreciate your coming on and talking with me today. Excellent interview and fascinating story, and I really wish you luck with Black Rose.
Actually, thank you. Thank you, and thank you for your support. And again, to all your audience, just don't wait for anything. Just go and get it, So thank you very much for your support.
Great advice. Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
A quick plug for the SYS Screenwriting Analysis Service. It's a really economical way to get a high-quality professional evaluation on your screenplay. When you buy our 3-pack, you get evaluations at just $67 per script for feature films and just $55 for teleplays. All the readers have professional experience reading for studios, production companies, contests, and agencies. You can read a short bio on each reader on our website, and you can pick the one who you think is the best fit for your script. Turnaround time is usually just a few days, but rarely more than a week. The readers will evaluate your script on 6 key factors: concept, characters, structure, marketability, tone, and overall craft, which includes formatting, spelling, and grammar. Every script will get a grade of pass, consider, or recommend, which should help you roughly understand where your script might rank if you were to submit it to a production company or agency. We can provide an analysis on features or television scripts. We also do proofreading without any analysis. We will also look at a treatment or outline and give you the same analysis on it. So if you're looking to vet some of your project ideas, this is a great way to do it. We will also write a logline and synopsis for you. You can add this logline synopsis service to an analysis, or you can simply purchase this script as a standalone product. As a bonus, if your script gets a recommend from a reader, you get a free email and fax blast to my list of industry contacts. This is the exact same blast service I use myself to promote my own scripts, and it's the same service I sell on the website. It's a great way to get your script into the hands of producers who are looking for material. So if you want a professional evaluation of your screenplay at a very reasonable price, check out www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. In the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Richie Greer. He recently did a $1,500 short film called Lost and Found, which you can watch for free over at screeningnow.com. So if you have a few minutes, check out that before next week's episodes, as we'll add some additional context to the interview. We talk through his whole process of shooting this short film, how he did it, how he found people to help him with it, how he found actors, how he found crew, how he got through post-production, really the whole gamut. Obviously, he wrote the script, directed it himself, produced it himself. So it's really just a great look at what you can do for $1,500. And this is just it's one episode in a series that I'm currently doing. I had Mark Hanley, who did a $200 short film on a couple of months ago. Then Richie is doing this $1,500 short. And I'm going to have two other short filmmakers that produce films at slightly higher levels. Each one of these shorts is going to become, just slightly more and more expensive. But, it'll give you kind of a good idea about what you can do for the money, how you can go about doing it if you're thinking about writing and then producing your own short film. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you for listening.